I remember a time when my father and I, he used to take us in the backyard and play baseball or pitch the ball around. And then eventually he would squat down into a catcher position. And I would throw him my hardest balls. And he would have a funny name for one of my so-called, I guess, screwball pitches. You know, he called it the crazy dancer, in Spanish though. And he used to always tell everybody, like all of the friends that would come over, and I guess kind of show me off a little bit. So I guess in his mind, I thought I would make the majors one day. It was a bonding. You know, it made me feel. It made me feel very connected to him, and loved, and I feel secured. And not only with him, but just like my brothers, he would bring my brother. I wasn't the only one, you know. I had two brothers, and my oldest brother didn't really play much ball, but my younger brother did. Him and I really. It was my father who introduced him and I into baseball and our love for the sport. Yeah. Now I'm 45, and looking back, I wish my father would have made me feel a little bit more secure about myself, in a sense that I would never feel ashamed of asking him certain questions, because as I grew up with him and around him, I would feel very intimidated. There were some instances where he made me feel embarrassed in front of people, and so by my question. And so growing up, I felt like I should have known all the stuff I was asking him. I should have already known that. I shouldn't have to ask him, so that I had that fear of asking, and I kind of carry that into my adulthood. To this very day, earlier as a matter of fact, I asked one of my friends a question. I told him, look, I might come across as ignorant, and then I asked him the question. So even to this very day, you know, I carry that with me. So in hindsight, I wish my dad would have not done that, instead of kind of take me to the side and kind of explain things a little bit better, instead of putting that fear in me, that intimidation factor.
I remember the time my father and I went to a men's training, which was a whole weekend from Friday to Sunday. And I'm part of an organization that works with men to better men and to better their lives and everything like that. And I had been a part of it for about, I want to say, a few months or a year, and so I invited my father to be a part of it. And he agreed to do it, although he would never do anything like this ever, but he wanted to go because I was going. So he agreed. And it was really fun and weird and awkward, especially because I really wanted to open up and have fun and like talk to different men, and he just wanted to talk to me. He didn't want to talk to any other men. He just wanted to have lunch with me, dinner with me, hang out with me the whole time. He didn't know any men, but I wanted to branch out. So I did a little bit, but I felt like he kind of held me back. But it was fine because we got to spend that time with each other. At the time, I didn't think it was. I was like, "Oh, Dad, you're ruining my coolness." But it was actually, that was all part of the experience of just having him there. And I was young at the time. I want to say 23 or 24 when I did it. And I was still very immature at the time. But it was still really fun. And what was interesting was there was another father-son team that was there. And they were going through a lot. They were opening up. And and men were honoring them, and just like how far the father and son had gone in their relationship. And my dad was so jealous. He was like, "Who do these guys think they are?" Like he'd talk shit kind of in the background. And I thought that was great. Like I thought it was hilarious because we didn't have those like epic moments that they did. But that's very much my father and I. We had that experience, and I just thought it was just funny to see him just complain about somebody else's, wins and stuff, and he's just like, what about us? Like, we're a father-son team, and we're pretty awesome. I don't know. So,
did anything change in your relationship with your father?
Yeah, we're definitely. So my father left when I was 16. Left the house. He didn't leave our lives, but he left the house, and when I was 16 years old, and he was gone for 10 years, and he came back to the house when I was 26. So he was still out of the picture, or he was away from the house, but I feel like we definitely bonded with each other. I always saw him as sort of as a father figure, of course, and I think what changed was I could sort of see him as an adult. He's a man just like I am. And I remember one time we got into an argument, and he said, "Fuck you," because he got heated or whatever, and he said, "Fuck you" to my face. And my dad is as tall as me. I'm 6'5" and a half, and he's 6'6". And he said, "Fuck you." But I remember handling it like a man, like it's just another man yelling at my face. I can handle it. I remember it was an argument we had afterwards. I remember that for sure. But I remember thinking it was okay. He's just another man. Before that time, I would have just been like, my father hates me. My father doesn't like me. All these things would have gone on. But I just saw him as who he was, as another man who was angry because I was provoking him about stuff, and he said, "Fuck you," and he left. And he apologized afterwards. But there was that. What changed was me, really, not really him, but just me, sort of taking in how he was, just as any other man who had to blow off some steam. So that's what helped, and I think we could have a better relationship, but we have a good relationship now. I try and call him a little more often than I've been out of the house for 3 years. They live 15 minutes away, but I don't see him as much. But I try and call him. So that's really it.
We're in like a garage covered area, and he was actually building a stand for the fish tank. That we've had fish tanks all our lives, and he would just give me his leftover material, and I would just make some whatever, and just being there with him, that's what I remember. It made me feel loved and cared for, that he wasn't really trying to tell me what to do, and just giving me that freedom and space to be who I was. I wish my father would have not divorced my mother.
Why?
I feel like there could have just been so many other fond memories, and when that happened, there were so many negative feelings towards my father. And home was just not the same. A lot of what you're getting is really my dad coming back into the picture, starting with "I'm sorry for what I did." And a lot of that work came from his end, and being on a men's team and learning what it is that he had to do to bring his truth to me and my brother. And I feel that if you asked me that question before my 20s, I would have not really known how to answer that for you.
I remember the time when my father and I used to take drives up to New York from Massachusetts. And he was a math teacher, and he used to ask me a lot of questions, similar to Jeopardy today. And that was probably one of my fondest moments of my dad, where he would, ask me questions about everything from geography to math to, science, and just see where I was at, and sometimes give me the answer if I didn't know. Sometimes he'd, make me work for it. So that's one of the things I remember the most. Looking back, I wish my father had spent less time with his students and more time with his own family. I felt pretty neglected. I know he loved me in his own way, but he really put a lot of commitment into his students. Spent a lot of time there and away from his family, so he had a family kind of away from home with his students, who he really loved, and he helped a lot of them, and that was great. But if he was home, and even if I wasn't a math star, it would have been nice.
Did you get good grades in school?
No.
It's funny, right?
Yeah.
I remember the time when my father and I were in the woods, and he was looking for me, and I was by myself, and I heard him calling me, and I didn't answer when he called. I was hanging out with my brother and his friends, and they somehow took off and left me, and I was standing there by myself, and I was alone, and I was afraid. And I heard my father calling me, and I just stood there like I was frozen, and I couldn't answer, or I wouldn't answer. And when he found me, he picked me up and asked me, "Why didn't you answer?" And I said, "I was afraid a bear might hear me." But that wasn't true. I was really just kind of resigned in the situation of having been abandoned like that I just shut down. But of course I was glad that he came and found me. I wish my father had a relationship with my mother, or with a mother figure, to show me what a good relationship would look like.
That's hard. That hardly happens. Everything's more recent, so usually when I go help him install sprinkler timers, he doesn't know how to do the new digital one, so he has me come and program them for him. He's used to the analog ones where you just wire it and you're good to go. That's all that comes up.
So, how does that make you feel, or what does it mean to you when he asks for your help and you go help him?
It's actually before I would get mad, because when I was younger and I asked him, "Can I help you?" He would basically say, "You're in my way. Please get out of here," but not in those words. So now when I got older and he realized that I'm becoming a man and he could use my help, I was like, "No, you lost your chance. Too late." But now I'm coming here to the teams, and that hasn't served me. So it's not really his fault all the way. He did the best he could as far as what he knew with the tools he had. So I have no reason really to be mad at him. If I don't try to help him when he asks for help, then I'm not keeping that relationship. So whatever we have left, you know, it's I feel like it's my responsibility to keep going. Otherwise, if I stop it, then that's it. You know, the way he does, his relationships towards me, that's on him. But it's up to me, my relationship towards him. So like it's starting to feel good to him actually wanting me to help him, and him realizing that I am worth his time, and that I'm actually useful. He's not just in the way. I'm actually, hey, he knows stuff, and yeah, that's what comes up.
We were driving. My dad was driving, and we were talking about cars. My dad always talked about cars. He would tell me about cars that he had worked on, that he had driven, that he had owned when he was growing up, and really cool cars. Impalas, Catalinas, you know, just the classics. And he was telling me about this engine, really big engine. I don't remember what car it was on, but he said this engine was like, he was describing a beast of an engine. And then and then he was telling me, and it has a 4-barrel carburetor. And I'm trying to conceptualize this as a kid, and I have no idea what a carburetor does. He said, and the carburetor is so big and the engine is so big that when you step on the gas, the engine goes, ah! That's the best way that he could describe what the engine does. And I always remember that about my dad, because my dad he was always handy with tools. He was always fixing his things. He was kind of like a MacGyver, and actually he is a MacGyver. In our community, he is MacGyver, and I grew up watching that, and so I was always picking my dad's brain. I was always asking him about mechanical theories, but when it came time to doing the work, I didn't want to do it. I would hide out, say, hey, we're gonna go change out the grease in the axles today, and my dad would like take out the whole, like, he'd go, I could change brakes, but he'd go even deeper. Like, he was able to like take it apart and pull the axle all the way from like the center of the differential, and like he'd open up the differential and he'd show me how the gears work, and it was very interesting. And that's something that my dad instilled in me. It's something that I still carry to this day. Matter of fact, I'll have to show it a little later. I have this when I was 15. My dad gave me my first tool set, just randomly, and my dad, with his tools, he would put his name on it, Jorge. But he gave me my tool set, and it was a Husky tool set. I remember I opened it up and I looked at them, and he had engraved them with my name, George. He put George on them. And I remember I had like every socket, every wrench, everything that I needed to fix my bikes, to work around the house. And unfortunately, I only have one wrench left. It's like a 7/16 wrench that I keep on my keychain, and it has my name on it, and it reminds me of my father. It's an artifact that my dad created for me that I always carry with me.
Thank you.
Let's see. Looking back, I wish my father had been more strict. I think that my dad was very lenient. When I was growing up, I grew up in a split family, and that hurt me a lot when I was growing up. Seeing my dad and my mom split, and I didn't know how to express the anger that I had when I was growing up, so I did things that I shouldn't have been doing. You know, I was ditching school, and just hanging out with the wrong people. I was being influenced by the wrong people as an adolescent. Got me into some trouble, and my mom, she didn't know what to do with me. Then my mom would say, "Okay, you're going to your dad's," and I would go to my dad's, and my dad would give me a lecture, and he'd tell me, you know, this is what could happen. You really got to think about what you're doing. You got to make the right choices. He would give me the lecture, but there wasn't a strong consequence for my actions with my father. I think that for my mom, she felt my consequence was to be away from her and have to go to my dad's house and spend the summer with him or spend the next 4 weeks with my dad. She thought that was a punishment. And you know, I'd have a lot of freedom when I would go with my dad. I didn't have friends or bad influences when I was with my dad, because all those bad influences were around like where my mom lived. So when I was with my dad, I spent a lot of time by myself, but my dad didn't take away privileges. He didn't say, no, you can't do that, or you're not going to do this, or you need to straighten up. And I wish my dad would have done some more of that.
Thank you. Can you squeeze that back into Spanish?
Yeah. All right, let's see. Let me think about what was okay. Can you start the sentence?
Looking back, I wish my father had.
All right.
You need to repeat that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ahora que lo pienso, lo que me gustaría que mi papá hubiera hecho es que me hubiera dado más disciplina cuando estaba creciendo. En la familia que yo crecí, mi papá y mi mamá se separaron y eso me dolió mucho cuando yo estaba pequeño. Pero yo no lo sabía que de allí me llegaba mucho dolor. Yo nomás solamente sabía cómo expresar mi coraje. Y con ese coraje me empecé a juntar con gente que no era buena influencia. Me metía en problemas y hasta habían veces que no iba a la escuela, pero mis padres pensaban que yo estaba en la escuela. Me la pinteaba, así como se dice. Y llegaron unos momentos que me metí en problemas y mi papá y mi mamá se tuvieron que involucrar. Y mi mamá, cuando se enojaba, me decía, ok, ya te vas con tu papá, te vas a ir allá con tu papá, porque ella no sabía qué hacer. Y mi papá pues me hablaba, me decía, mira hijo, no debes de hacer esto, piensa lo que estás haciendo, porque puede pasar esto, puede pasar lo otro. Mi papá siempre me contaba, hasta a veces me contaba cuentos que tienen un moral al cuento, que el cuento tiene su historia y una lección en el cuento. Pero eso es lo más que yo recuerdo que mi papá me daba. No, casi nunca me dio cintarazos. Es bueno eso, pero los privilegios nunca me los quitó. Nunca me dijo, no, ya no puedes ver la televisión, o ya no puedes irte en tu bicicleta, o ya no puedes salir con tus amigos. Nunca. Y eso es lo que yo pienso que mi papá me podría haber dado un poquito más de eso.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Dude?